welcome back to Living History with Ted Goldsboro and our special guests today, Dr. Sam and Mrs. Dottie Edgerton. They have a Lower Merion connection, and we've been sharing stories and having a good time, and we're so glad that they came down from Williamstown, Massachusetts to be interviewed and visit us and take part in some events that we had. We mentioned in the beginning of this series that there was a dedication of a historic marker. And I wonder, Dr. Sam, if you could tell us how you were involved back in 1953?
63?
63,
yeah,
thank you, about that.
Well, of course, I had graduated from Penn by that. I was very much part of the Lower Merion community by this time. And I was teaching at Friends Central School. That was when my first job when I got out of the University of Pennsylvania was selling meat for the Hiswitton Company, which is not my particular cup of tea. So I decided that teaching was something I really thought I would like to do, and I got a job teaching at first at Perkiomen School up in Pennsburg, Pennsylvania, and then at Friends Central. And Friends Central was a Quaker school, of course, and the civil rights movement with the Quakers, there was a lot of discussion over the lunch table with the faculty and all of that. And we were all pretty liberal about this whole issue at that time, and I particularly got very much interested in the civil rights movement. I was following it, all the issues, and followed Martin Luther King. And I heard about the Ardmore Avenue School business. I knew that I heard that this was a big controversy in town. I looked into it, and I decided that, actually I'm not kind of sure whether I knew Isabel Long Strickland first or whether I decided during the NAACP, whichever. I joined because I wanted to become a member of the local NAACP here. And Isabel Long Strickland and I became very good friends. And as this this issue festered on Ardmore Avenue and heated up in the politics in the town, I became pretty, I think I jokingly laugh about this, but I became her white spy. She asked me, why don't you go out and check with these other schools and see how they would react if this ever came to pass. And so I did, and I recorded the experience that I had at Ardmore School. I also had a similar one at Penn Wynne School. I'm not sure I went to the other schools, but we had to know other schools that might be involved. And I knew we knew that Penn Wynne, which was really very close, that was going to probably be very active in this. But anyhow, we were getting trying to get the school board to listen to and the school board had taken a kind of what I think was, you might say, a kind of a bureaucratic indifference to all of this. You know, let the noise go on, but this is the way it is, and we're not going to make any changes. And this incident when we played up, where the 20% of white students were there, which was often used by Uncle Ben in the Ardmore Chronicle, then called, you know, what's all this big fuss about? You got 20, you know, you got all these white kids here that you could mix up. That's not de jure segregation. That's by neighborhoods. And when I went in and talked to the Ardmore principal, and he told me the fact that these are these are the special ed people, really the very poor students from other parts of the system, which were sent there. And literally, the school board permitted this to lard a white community, which to sort of damp down the resistance without ever telling who they were. It's well known now who they were, but we didn't really know who they were. And when I heard that when I was not allowed to look at the classrooms because they were special ed, they were segregated within a school we were trying to desegregate.
So all the whites were segregated from the blacks anyway, even in that school.
I know. When I walked in there, this was still, school was early June, and the school was still on. Where were the white kids? I didn't see anybody. You know, it should be 1 in 10 maybe, but no, there weren't anybody. So when he told me that, we went back, and when he confronted the school board with that, I think this hit them which I said were from their indifference. This went to a kind of embarrassed attention. They were honest people, and they really saw that this was kind of a bit of hypocrisy to do what they were doing. I think that started them to rethink, and their consciences to be ticked. And by the end of that summer, by that August, they voted 9-0 to desegregate. So I was part of that, and unfortunately I'm the last living person who was part of that, including Isabel, who died 2 years later and never was able to get the credit she deserved, nor even enjoy the thrill of the victory that she'd attained.
To your knowledge, was she a local
She wasn't local. I just discovered, I talked to Charles
Smith?
Smith, apparently Vivian Cherry, who now is 102 years old, had been the previous director, and I don't think she and Isabel got along.
Okay.
And Isabel died, and Vivian stayed alive. And I think that I haven't, but you follow what I mean.
So few people seem to know about Isabel Long Strickland, and we can't find anything.
I know.
Yeah, I was sorry that we didn't meet any relative or anything.
And she had no relatives. She had
at the ceremony.
She had a brother, but he seems to have disappeared
and
or
the
died.
father died early, so there's just nobody.
Well, maybe somebody will turn up.
I'm hoping that.
Yes.
And I was very pleased that the present president of the Lower Merion School Board mentioned her name, saying, "I never heard her before, but she'll now be in the report."
Good.
Yeah, I thought that.
Yes.
That Isabel, I think.
Now, when you were in that summer of '63, you tell us about this.
Well, interestingly enough, that even though I was heavily involved with the Lower Merion business, I had a new job, and that was to teach my first college job at Wheaton College up in Norton, Massachusetts. And so I had to leave here. We moved out of here in late August to move up to Norton.
You had a busy summer.
4 children in the family just arriving in Norton, Mass, installed in this.
And off goes the husband down to Washington.
Right, I'm going to Washington.
Well, this was a
wait
big
a minute.
Right. First to Boston. Into the bus, then to Washington.
Tell us, could you share this experience with me?
This was a wonderful experience. This is a very spiritual experience indeed. But I was still very much involved in this whole issue, and this was a wonderful kind of a high moment when the March on Washington. And so I left Norton. We had the family ensconced now in this new house that the Norton people gave us, the Wheaton College people gave us, and so off I went via Cambridge, Massachusetts, where we picked up a bus. We all had these buses that you see here.
Greyhound.
And with signs on the side here, and we drove all the way from that night, all through the night, to Washington. All along the route, there were people, waving at us. "We shall overcome," singing as we sang on the bus. It was, kind of an 8-hour spiritual going on all the way through. That morning we arrived, and they gave us all signs. Everybody got a couple of signs here to wear on your for the moment of the. Excuse me.
There was one that showed those signs. There's some. There's one right there.
Yeah, we all put the signs on. Of course, we had this big march down Independence Avenue, and interesting, there were a lot of newspaper reporters there. President Kennedy never came. None of the Congress people ever showed up on this thing. They were all scared of this thing. Martin Luther King was actually advised, "Don't do this. Don't do this. I'll never get the Southern votes if you're going to want to have a bill."
So politics was active then?
Very bad. So anyway, then I took pictures of this because the record of who were there. This was, of course, I walked each end of the mall to see this, the 250,000 people that were there. And in this picture that I took right here, I was actually standing
on the stairs?
Right. Now, you couldn't get on the stairs. I was right there, and here was King. I could hear him give that speech.
You got such a great, I mean, this is a really remarkable shot.
Yeah. It is.
And
wow. So you couldn't hear him too well?
No, I not only heard him well, I heard him without the microphone.
Oh, you were that close?
Very close. He was just above me to the left,
Jeez.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, did you realize the significance?
None of us did, for interesting things.
I don't think so. Got on the bus again?
It was a very moving speech.
Back to Boston, where they didn't even know it was happening.
Yeah.
Probably didn't even cover it in the papers.
There's one picture that I have here of the, here it is, right here. This was the program. And you see there's 18 speakers over here. And down here, after all these big, very famous people from the Black Movement and others, down here, 16 remarks. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, President, Southern Baptist Association, will give a few remarks. A speech that is probably as famous as the Gettysburg Address. There it is.
Near the end.
Smile, little tiny print. I think I always found that.
We're getting down towards the end of our time together. Let me see here. I had. Oh yes. I think your mother.
That's out 6 Arthur Road.
Okay. Your father had passed on.
My mother.
Oh, your mother.
My mother.
Okay. Now, what happened to Dr. Sam's parents at this time?
They're still alive.
Yeah.
My father died in 1970s, in
Okay.
1978, and my mother died in 1980.
Where were they living?
Well, my father got Alzheimer's very early, and he was living in a nursing home in Wayne when he died, and my mother was at a nursing home in
Medford Lees.
Medford Lees.
Oh, yes, I know that.
And
yes,
she died
over
in
Jersey.
1980.
Okay.
In the meantime, I was in college, teaching.
Up at Williams.
No, I didn't go to Williams. Actually, it's interesting. In 1980, the very year that I went to Williams, that was the year that she died. And unfortunately, I went to see my mother just before I went there. My mother was slipping very badly, and she hardly even knew what I was talking about. So that was too unfortunate. Yeah.
Well, we were living with Mother. This was a duplex.
Yeah.
And when we came from Perkiomen School, Sam wanted to be closer to Penn so we could get his degrees. So Mother said, "I'll move into the little apartment. You take the house."
Okay.
So we lived there for 3 years, right at County Line Road.
Yes, yes. We're getting down towards the end of our time together, and it's been
It's
great.
been a wonderful experience.
To be with you
Really,
and share memories.
certainly.
A guy named Wendell Holland
Yeah.
came up to see you, and Wendell was the one who planned the events that we participated in.
Anita too.
And his wife, thank you, Anita came too. And we thought it was so great that Dr. Sam recreated the American Gothic with his pitchfork there. And I'm so grateful to both of you for coming. It is so great to meet you. We're all family now.
Been very interesting. And
thank you. Thank you so much.
That was wonderful.
This is Ted Goldsboro ending another Living History program with Dr. Sam and Mrs. Dorothy Edgerton. Thank you for joining us.